Hi everyone, this is Jeff Gerber, and this is the second of a three-part training series on how to use the MechWarrior Online game art assets in 3D programs such as Blender. This video focuses on using PowerShell scripts to import the new mech model format into Blender using the Python console. Some experience with PowerShell is useful here, as well as Python, but should not be essential. Please be aware of all applicable copyright rules and don't steal. Thank you. Alright, let's get started. The purpose of this video is to help artists use the new mech format in Blender. The old format had a handy scale version which provided us with a fully assembled mech. The current versions have the mechs broken down into their individual component pieces, so there's an object file for each different part of the mech. A significant challenge to assembling a mech as they're not inherently in the correct positions. If you add them all at their default positions, you'll have a jumble of mech piles at the very center of your Blender screen. Fortunately, the game file comes with another text file for each mech that has a position and rotation information for each of these objects, so all we need to do is convert that file into a bunch of Python commands and pop those into the Python console. So let's get started we're going to take a look at the Cataphract today, because that's one of my personal favorite mechs, and everyone should have an Ilya Muromets, or as I like to call it, the Ilyazilla Megausikins Murdermets. Alright. Let's take a look at the file structure. We will do this first through the file manager here and find it's under, this is all organizational data for me, but it's going to be under Objects, Mechs, Cataphract. Now you will see a number of files here. This CDF file is actually very important to us. This contains the actual rotation and position information for each of the different parts. It also tells Blender what the bone name for it is going to be, and this will be important when we start rigging the mech, which isn't going to be a factor right now. That'll be the next training video. And you can see all the different component names here. There's a laser piece, a AC-10, and so on and so forth. So let's close this for now. What else we have here? The sounds, hard points. This is if you see people like Smurfy will identify what different hard points are going to be on the mech before it actually comes out, because they usually have access to this file, and it will tell you, it's just a XML file, tell you what each of the pieces go. But what we're looking for is generally under the body folder. Cockpit will have the actual interior view of it. We're not going to look at that right now, but a lot of the stuff you're learning here will apply in there as well. So if you go into the body, you will see a bunch of files here. Here's all the object files. Now this has already been converted using Gnosis. They originally start off as CDF files. I used it to convert them to OBJ because those can be imported directly into Blender. The image files start off as DDS, and I went and converted them to PNG files. I don't think I'm going to use PNG in the future. I'm going to just use JPEG or maybe even TIFF, because the material files actually use TIFF. So let's take a look at it. This is probably not a good example of it. Let's go to the body. Yeah, you can see that the material files for the mechs actually use TIFF, even though they're listed as DDS. I'm not really sure what the difference is. Don't really care right now, but there you have it. As long as we're here in this Cataphract material file, you should notice that there are going to be three different types of materials here. The Cataphract body, let's see what else we got here. Let's do the decals, which is going to be a future addition to MechWarrior Online. They're going to give you the ability to do details. I think it also does things like dirt and dust and things like that. The variants, which will apply to all the weapons that are on there. There are three different, or I should say 5 or more different variants of the Cataphract. And then as you add and remove weapons, they use the variant material. And finally, the window, which is going to be the cockpit window. And that's a fairly simple one. So let's close this. We're not going to need this for now. We will come back to this later. And the other thing that is in here that's of interest is this CHR file. Haven't talked about it before, but this actually contains armature information for this particular mech. We will be using this in the next lesson. You'll have to use Gnosis to convert this to a Collada file, which will save all the information. Then you can basically relate it. The nice thing about using this is it has all the proper bone names, so that when we start going to animations, let's go to mechs. No, wait, hang on, where is that? Animations, mech, Cataphract. All these different CAF files are going to be things that you can apply to the mech in Blender. There's going to be some additional challenges to it. You have to actually use the Cryengine editor to convert them to something useful, but anyway, all the animations are here and you'll be able to use them fairly effectively. So let's go back to, where were we? Objects, mechs, Cataphract, body. Here's all the different objects. Now if we just do a simple import here, import object file, mechs. Yep, we're going to dig around this a little bit, and you know what, actually let's cancel this. First thing we're going to do is save this. Let's get rid of the light, let's get rid of the camera. The reason we're saving it is once you save it, it will start going from where you start looking. If you go to mechs, let's save this as, oh hang on, we got to go to the right directory. It's under archive, December, objects, mechs, Cataphract, and we're going to just save it in the root of Cataphract, call it cataphract.blend. Yes, there we go. Save. Alright, so now when you try to do imports and things like that, it's going to start searching there. So anyway, let's take a look at the Cataphract. We'll import, let's just say, the center torso. As you can see, it is the origin is set kind of in the middle here. If you imagine the mech fully assembled, this is probably not where you would imagine the torso, so it's not quite right. Let's import another piece of the mech so you can take a better look at that object, and then let's try and do a forearm, or actually, yeah, let's do the shoulder because that should be attached to the mech. And you can see it's separated a little bit here, not quite right. So let's delete both these files, and we're going to use my script that I made. It's called Mech Importer, and what it will do is it will go through all these different object files. You provide it with some file information, specifically the what is it called? The CDF file right here. This has all the positional information, as I mentioned earlier. You provide this information to the script, and then you tell it where the body directory is, and it will be able to convert. It'll make an import.txt file that you can put into the Python console. So let's do that. The name of the way you run it is Mech Importer PS1. It's a PowerShell script. Now I have this in the path, so I don't have to do the / to locally reference it or type the path. You will probably want to add it to the path as well, because it's just easier than typing the path every time. And then you put in CDF file name, cataphract.cdf, and it will come up and ask you for the directory where the OBJ files. Now this has to be the full directory path, which is going to be basically this. Let's hang on, I think we gotta do middle. Alright, it's just gonna be difficult. Blender projects. Fract/body. I do a trailing slash there. It's probably not necessary, but I'm not really sure. If you hit enter, it's going to create a text file for you and also output everything to the screen. It is generally easier to just use the text file and copy and paste it from there. Let's take a quick look. Notepad import.txt. And what we have here is a series of commands that for each object in here, in this particular case, it's, oh, it looks like it wants to put a bunch of double spaces in here. Well, that's not going to be good. I'll take a look at my script here. Alright, I'm going to pause and fix this real quick for you. Alright, sorry about that. It's all fixed up now. I was putting a couple of spaces in there. So let's try that again. We're going to do mechimporter.cataphract.ps1, ask for the object file. Forgot in memory. You can put the trailing slash in there or not. I found out if you put it in, it adds a couple of extra slashes in here. Should not really affect anything, but let's just make it nice and clean by doing that. And then if we look at, let's see, what are we going to look at? Notepad import.txt. You will see, oh, hang on. What it does is it appends all this information. You see it's all the same information over again. So let's delete it. Import.txt. Run it one more time. And notepad import.txt. The joys of testing in production. So here we go. Now each body part is going to have a bunch of different lines associated with it. We'll go over it really quick what each of these lines are doing. The first one is importing the actual object file right here. The second one is going to make it the active object. Then it sets the rotation mode. This information is actually rotating the particular object. It's grabbing this from that, I think it was a CDF file that we talked about. This will transform it. It will move it to the right position. This will delete the materials associated with it, which is going to be really important at the end, because if you don't do this, you'll have to manually do it for dozens upon dozens of objects. It changes its edit mode, removes the doubles, converts the tris to quads, and then moves it back to object mode so that we can add another object in there. In the future, that we may not want to do this. It depends on if you add it as an edit mode, it may all appear as one particular object. I don't think we necessarily want to do that, so we want to go back to object mode, but anyway, there you go. So we have this handy text file with all these commands necessary to import this mech into Blender. So let's copy it all, select all, copy, get out of the way. Now in Blender, we're going to want to open up a Python console. And the way you do that is you go to this mode or editor type and select Python console. You can see, I don't know if there's anything useful in here, but we'll just continue. You want to paste with Control V, and as soon as you hit Control V, it will start importing the objects. This may take a couple seconds. Hit Enter because it will have that final object that it doesn't do. I can see some errors here. I couldn't find some particular objects. Well, we're not going to worry about that too much right now. Let's go see what our particular import. We can minimize this as we don't need it anymore. This does sort of look like a Cataphract, a little bit. However, some pieces are still not quite in the right position. What I found out is sometimes, all those errors, you can see what happens. This looks like a shoulder piece. It obviously did not get put in the right position, or at least it didn't get rotated. It probably got moved to the right position, but it didn't get rotated properly. The easiest way of fixing this is, I believe it's 270 degrees in the X and the Z direction. So let's give that a real quick test. Let's back up a little bit here. We'll rotate with R, then we'll hit X to select the X direction in 270, and that will put it over here. Actually, why don't we look to see what object we're working with here first. Let's open this up a little bit. It's very useful to look at this particular part here. This is a left arm shoulder. And here's part of the reason is it found another object. That's because I imported it earlier, so as part of the demo. So actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to close this. We are going to start Blender up again. Let's get it in the right side of the screen. Make sure it fits in the recording area. Delete the sun, delete the camera. We are going to open up the Python console again. And we are going to paste again. Hit the final enter, Z. And let's see if this is any better this time. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we still got a little laser that looks like it decided to fly away in the no man's land here. And it does look like it's missing a cockpit. Here it is, right here. And this is very normal. The headpiece on a lot of the mechs just don't get translated properly. So it's kind of hidden in the armpit right here. Let's do this rotating again thing. Let's get this Python console out of the way. Rotate with RX to select the X direction, 270 in that, and then rotate, I believe, in the Y direction, 270. There we go. So rotate X 270, rotate Y 270, and that will put the cockpit back in the proper position. And as far as this little piece right here, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you flying away? Forearm PPC. So that probably goes right arm. This could be this one over here. Let's hit Control 1 to get it in the right spot. Let's see if we can figure out if we can hit 3. Grab it in the Y direction. What do you think? Does that look like the proper PPC position for a mech? Alright, we'll just leave them right there, and that was going to have to do just fine. Alright, so there you go. You've got a catapult. He is a bunch of different pieces. If you go in edit mode for one of these, you should notice that all the doubles are removed. We hit Control V and do remove doubles. It shouldn't actually find any, which is nice. It's already converted them to squares as much as it could, and that is very, very nice. So now what we want to do is apply the textures to them, or I'm sorry, the materials. And we did this before in the first video when we created the node groups and all that fun stuff, but now that we're dealing with this new format, we're going to have to redo this whole section. Now, as I mentioned before, there are only 3 different materials assigned with this particular mech. Actually, before I go on, let's go here, look at the materials. You can see all these different unreferenced material pieces here. And what ended up happening is, as we added each piece, it created a default material based off the name of the node or name of the object. Then, as when it removed it, it made this little 0 number here, which means it's not referenced in any other object in the piece. So they're basically orphaned, and they don't go away until you actually close Blender and reopen it. So let's actually do that. You know, housekeeping is always very important for something like this. Let's save our mech again one more time. Cataphract up Blender. We're going to overwrite this existing one. That was the one that didn't have a bunch of the pieces in the right spot. Alright, and then we're going to close. Let's save one more time. Reopen. And then we're going to select the Cataphract. And then when we go to materials, all you're going to see is the forearm AC5, which was, I don't know why they decided to get there, and the cockpit piece right here. Now, the fact is, it doesn't look like we have glass in this part right here. So what probably happened is the glass, which is right there under the armpit again, he didn't get rotated on the X and Y direction as well. Head, cockpit. So let's do that one more time. Rotate X 270, rotate Y 270. Nope, that didn't work. Let's select him again. Rotate X 270, rotate Y. Hang on. Rotate Y 270. There we go. I must have hit the key wrong. Alright, that's much better. No more, nothing left in the armpit? Nope. Alright, that's good. So anyway, we're down to just a couple materials here. Let's unassign the materials here. And I'm not going to find that other piece right now, but he's around there somewhere. So let's go to the node editor and start recreating our nodes for this. And this should be just basically a duplicate copy of what we learned before. Let's go to node editor. I am just going to do the diffuse material. So let's just pick a random piece. Let's do the shoulder here. Let's make sure we get just a shoulder. Grab it. Yeah, okay. We're going to do use nodes. Are we in Blender? Yeah, cycle materials. Do new. Let's move all this stuff over. We're going to input an image texture, plug them into the diffuse. We're going to open up the directory where all the textures are. It's going to be under body, and we're going to look for the diffuse ones, and we're going to look for specifically if you have a regular body piece selected, you're going to want to use Cataphract body. If you have a weapon piece, you're going to want to use variant. If you use window, you're going to do that. If you're working with damaged mechs, then you can use the damaged ones as well. But here we go. Here's the diffuse one. Plug it in. Let's change our mode to material. And there you go. That actually looks like a torso. Now, what you could do, let's kind of minimize this. You know, I'm just going to assign the rest. I'm just going to make the rest of the node group here. I'll just fast forward it so you can see what I'm doing here. Alright, this should be just about it. I'm not going to double check my work here, but basically you put the diffuse image into the diffuse shader, you put the specular one into the glossy, and you put the normal one into a displacement one over here. So this is probably accurate enough for our purposes. You can always tweak these to meet your own particular needs. Now what else do we want to do? Let's actually get a little preview window over here as well, because it's just kind of nice to be able to see what you're doing sometimes. We'll change him to 3D view. We'll make him rendered. Zoom him out a little bit so you can see the Cataphract, I'm sorry. It's a little dark, so let's add a little world lighting. Use nodes. Ambient occlusion really does a lot to help make it brighter. Let's change this color to make it a lighter gray. And that should just do it. Just about do it. Now I talked before about using JPG files instead of PNGs because the PNGs, for some reason, the alpha channel gets all messed up and makes things a lot darker than they should be. But anyway, that should give you a good idea what's going on. Alright, so this is your node layout for one of your three materials. Next, let's just select everything here. Hit B to box select, select everything, Control C to copy. Now let's go to one of the weapon systems. Let's do this little thing that's sticking out here, which is probably an autocannon of some sort. We will actually, I'm sorry, let's make sure we finish doing what we're supposed to be doing here. This is called material. We don't want it material, let's call it Cataphract body. Make sure it's clearly identified. So I said copy, select this, select this weapon system here, and click new. Delete these nodes there and hit Control V, and we'll call this Cataphract variant underscore variant. Right, and now we need to change these files around. Get rid of that. Open variant. This is the diffuse. This is the the cockpit and body. Specular, variant specular, and then this one's going to be variant normal. DDN right there. Okay. A little bit tougher to see what's going on here. You can see that it's got some weird artifacting going on there, but that's not really important right now. The fact is we just want to do it. And then one final one is the cockpit glass. That's the third and final material on here. We're not going to worry about decals. Let's do new, and we're going to change this to Cataphract underscore cockpit. X to delete those, Control V, and you can see when you have the wrong image files, you're basically looking at the UV maps right there. Now what we want, let's again, window diffuse, get rid of specular, window specular, and get rid of this one, and do Windows normal. Probably not too much information in the normal one, but there we go. So now we should have three different materials that need to be assigned to all these. Now you can click individual pieces and then select the existing one here. This would be the body piece. And as you can see, it just kind of goes on naturally, which is fine. This is exactly what we want. But there's also some other things that we're going to want to do to just... It's all about organization. So let's be organized here. The variants are all the different weapon systems. The body is just the catapult body, and the cockpit window obviously probably is part of the body. So what we're going to want to do is move all the weapon systems to a different layer. So we're going to actually select them all, go to layer 2, and that's actually going to help us do a lot of things in the future. So unselect everything. The easiest way of doing it, I mean, you could probably click through all these different pieces and all the different weapons and move, just hit M to move to the second one. But it's probably easiest just to select them over here in the, what is this thing called? This is called the outliner. Yep, in the outliner. So let us go through here, and every time we see something that looks like a weapon system, we're going to select it with shift left click. So we have a couple AC5s there, a laser, SRM. Let's keep on going down. Laser, SRM, laser, pulse. AC5 cap. Actually, why is my thing... Oh, there's a bunch of pieces up here in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, that's part of the fun of this, dealing with these pieces that are spread out all over the place. Just something you gotta work around. Alright, let's keep on finding weapons. Pinkies. It's interesting they get the leg pinkies. Here's another one. Laser. AMS. AMS is considered a weapon. Which is fine. PPC for the forearms. You can see all kinds of stuff you can put in the forearms, including a cap. The right arm doesn't seem to have anything there. Right leg, torso, thigh. Here, right torso. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff in here. LBX. And there's another cap. And that should be everything. Let's go through and double check to make sure we got it all right. Alright, that should be right. We'll be able to double check this in a second. So once you have everything selected, you can see them outlined in here. Hit M to move them to a different layer, and you select 2. Now what you have here is your just basic default catapult, or cataphract, I keep on saying that, with no weapons. You can see a little blank spot here for the torso weapon. The arm here is just the arm, and it looks like it has a little blank here for a laser, but who knows what that's all about. There's a hand. Yeah, so this is your base catapult. If you go to layer 2, you can see all the different weapon systems on there. What is this guy over here? That doesn't look like he's in the right place. Left forearm. All these ones ended up with 0001. They just seem to be having problems. Let's see if we can rotate. We know this is going to be left arm. Rotate X 270. Rotate Y 270. That doesn't look much better. Is that left? That would be left forearm. Who knows? Maybe that is right. Let's try something else here. What is this system? Oh, that's something in the front. What's this piece right here? Left forearm. Rotate X 270. Rotate Y. Whoopsie. Y 270. Yeah, that looks kind of close. Let's select both of these. Rotate X 270. There we go. That looks a lot better. Sometimes you just got to play around until you get them in the right position. Now, these are all going to be using the variant material on here. So what you want to do, there's a very easy way. Instead of just clicking each one and going to the materials and assigning the variant, that's one way of doing it. But an easier way is just to select them all with A, and making sure that one that has the material assigned is the light gold one. So that's the active selected object, as opposed to the dark, I don't know what color to call it, it's a dark orange, as opposed to the gold color here. So everything in here is selected. You hit Control L to link, and then you click on M for materials, and that will instantly copy over that material to all the other pieces on here. As you can see, it looks like these left forearm objects are okay. This looks a little weird. I don't know if this is right. Does that look right? That doesn't look right. If you find something that's not right, that part looks okay. It looks like a barrel of something. If you find something that's not right, this particular piece is the right torso AC10. Let's change the material to just the regular body, and actually that looks a lot better. So you will see that happen occasionally, is even though it's a weapon, and you would think it would just use the weapon pieces, that doesn't always happen. This one also looks like it's the same issue. Change it from variant to body, and does that look right? Yeah, that looks more like an AC10. Alright, what else we have down here? Does this all look okay? Some sort of laser. Yeah, forearm laser. The positioning seems a little bit weird, but we're not going to judge. This little piece here, a forearm PPC, did not get a... It does look like he has a material sign, but it doesn't look like it doesn't look right. So let's change him to the body as well. And there we go. That looks a lot better. Alright, zoom this out a little bit. Here's one more gray piece. A couple of gray pieces in here. If you don't like the look of it, switch it and give it the other one. The Cataphract here is particularly messy. I don't know why. Don't know why it's like that. Sensor bay. Hey, how about that? There's some interesting things that you see in here too. That's it looks like there's another missing piece in here. Back to not texture, we want material. Well, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it too much. Let's undo all that stuff here and hope that we have this right. Okay. So these are all the different weapon pieces. Even though we had to assign the regular body pieces, a lot of the newer models, it'll just work a lot better. And you can see the rendered view in here with normals and everything. Just, that's a nice looking Cataphract arm. Alright, let's go back to the main part here. And we're going to want to do the same thing with everything in here. Is we want to select all. We want to make sure that one of the pieces that already has the material assigned is active. Hit Control L, assign materials, and everything should go across. Now, of course, I had the cockpit selected, so that kind of screwed up my cockpit, but we'll fix that here in a second. Let's make sure everything looks right. Looks alright. Yep, that's all good. Let's check our rendered view. See? There we go. That's one big badass Cataphract. Alright, now let's fix the glass here real quick. We'll change them back to Cataphract. Cockpit. It's a little dark here. I don't know why it shows so dark in this, but the rendered view, you can clearly see that it has the cockpit window here. Alright, so let's get rid of our node editor here. We probably don't need that anymore. Minimize this a little bit. Save him, because we basically are done here, except for there's a couple of other things that I want to show you before we end this video. And that is how to create your own custom Cataphract. Now, my personal favorite is the Ilyazilla Megasikins Murder Mets. It is the dual Gauss version of the Cataphract. And the way you make one of those is you add 2 Gauss and 2 lasers in the torso, and the people you're going to run into are going to have a bad day. It doesn't have an AMS, so we don't need that, and we're not going to worry about it. Now, part of the problem is I don't actually see in the list of different weapons it has here on the arms Gauss, which is okay, I guess. We're just going to have to fake it, and we're just going to use these little guys right here. What is that? That is the forearm AC5. Is there anything that looks better? This is Ultra AC5, the little triple barrel rotating thing. Don't like the way that looks. PPC is obviously not going to be it. He's obviously has the wrong material. There we go, much better. And no, we're just going to have to use the AC5 one to pretend, and we're just going to pretend it's Gauss. Alright, so what you want to do to create your own particular variant is you're going to want to create a group, and you can do that with the G key. But first you're going to want to do is select all the pieces that you're going to want to make this particular mech. So let's go back to the beginning, and we're going to select everything here because obviously you want the base mech as part of your obviously you're not just going to be a weapon system, you're going to have pieces in there. Let's select all the weapon systems. Actually, let's try and figure a better way of doing this. You can see these didn't quite line up right either, so yeah, the Cataphract is just having all kinds of problems today, isn't it? Huh, I'm not really sure how that's going to work. Are we even on the right side? Yeah, right forearm. Right forearm. The Cataphract's kind of a mess of a model to be doing this, so we're just going to fake it. We're going to pretend everything's in the right place. So let's go back. Let's start over again. Select everything, and then we're going to want to add the forearm, and we're just going to be in the first layer here instead of selecting both of them. We know we're going to want to use the AC5, so we want the AC5 on this one. I think part of the reason is because these are for the 4X. We want in the right forearm, we want the left arm AC5. Where did that one go? Left forearm AC5, AC5, yep. And we want a couple of lasers, and those are actually found on the second one. We're just going to shift click the ones that we want here. That one and that one. And I don't know what this is. This is AC5 cap. We don't want the cap, so let's unselect that. Let's just select it like this. Alright. So we should have everything that we want. We're just going to do a quick test on this. We have everything selected. We're going to add it to the third layer here. Actually, we have to do move the third layer. Yeah. So if we go to the third layer, actually, hang on. Let's select everything here. Move the first and third. How's this going to work? I'm not really sure. Okay, let's just start over. Select everything here. We know we got the weapons we want in the third. And they're all selected currently. So to create a group, you just hit Control G. And we're going to call this Ilyazilla. Right? And now, if you want to actually import the Ilyazilla into your whatever art you're going to do, you can, let's save what we have so far. Let's create a new Blender. Select everything in here. Here we go. Save it. File, open new one. file, append, and then we're already all the way in here because it's already had an IliaZilla group. Probably did it as one. There we go. There's your IliaZilla, and just pretend these are Gauss. Just pretend they're in the right position, and let's hit Control 1. Just see if we can manually move these to the right spot. Yeah, I'm not really sure how you want to do it, but that's basically how it's done. Let's grab him, move him. How the heck is that supposed to go? Who knows? Anyway, that is basically how you make your custom mechs. And if we go back to textures here, they should, or materials, it should actually have the right materials in there too. Everything copied over nicely. Alright, that sums it up. Sorry for the confusion on some of those parts there, but as always, there's going to be something that doesn't quite work right. And if we actually go back to our original Cataphract here, you can even see that the weapon system, I think the SRM will still be way up here. Who knows why I decided to do that. Yep. Is that? Oh, actually, that's probably an LRM since it's got 5 missile tubes. But, let's see. Let's make sure we have everything selected. Zoom in. You have two different layers with the weapon systems on them. You have you can create groups to make your own custom mechs. You can save them if you save them as a group, then you can load them into other assets with those particular pieces, and that should be a good finishing point for today's video. The next one's going to do animations, or I'm sorry, it's going to include armatures, the bone structures and things like that, and we will talk about how to assign or how to relate the particular mech to the armature. Sorry, I just like looking at it rendered. That way you can actually grab a piece of the mech, and you can manually move them like this, but this is kind of a pain in the butt. You actually be able to grab bones, and we'll set up IK chains too so that you can move your mech and do animated poses with them. It may be possible that I can actually use the built-in animations for the mech, as I showed you those CAF files earlier. Hopefully I'll get that figured out by the time I do the next video. But if not, then you can definitely create your own animations and use them any way that you want. So thank you for watching. Like this if you want, subscribe if you want. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.